Greetings all. Welcome back. Everybody's back in school now, and we begin again. Without objection, I'll accept the agenda as distributed. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes for June 11, for our June 11 meeting? So moved. Okay. Second, please. All right. Corrections, additions, anything? I hear none, I see none. All those in favor of approving the minutes? Aye. Okay. Opposed? Abstentions? You can give your names if you weren't here, whatever. You can give your names up front. Just announcements. We will miss Joanne Hennessy, who has resigned from the RTM. She's moving to New Canaan, which doesn't allow her to serve here anymore, but we can all be grateful for her contribution over a long period of time to this body and to the town of Darien. She was the vice chair of the Rules Committee, so at an election at our last Rules meeting, Lois Schneider was elected vice chair of the Rules Committee. She gets to wear two hats. She's my replacement. That's a separate deal. And then she's also vice chair of the Rules Committee. Any other announcements? I think Clara Sartori had some.
Hi, I'm Clara Sartori from District 2, and I also wanted to make an announcement on behalf of the League of Women Voters. On Wednesday, October 2nd, we're going to have as a guest Denise Merrill, who is the Secretary of the State of Connecticut. She's going to speak about election integrity in Connecticut. The event is at the Piedmont Club on Hecker Avenue. It begins with a coffee at 9:30. She will begin speaking at 10. There will be a lot of publicity throughout town. The program is free and open to the public, so we hope you all will come. Thank you.
Thank you, Clara. And Donna has something for us.
Just want to give you a quick update on the status of the ballot for November with regard to the RTM. In District 1, we have 11 vacancies with 11 candidates. District 2, 8 vacancies with 6 candidates. District 3, we have a contest. We have 10 vacancies with 11 candidates. In District 4, we also have a contest, 7 vacancies with 9 candidates. District 5, 10 vacancies, 8 candidates. District 6, 11 vacancies, 10 candidates. The reason I'm telling you this is because any chance of being on the ballot is done. However, there is an opportunity if you know someone who might like to be a write-in candidate for the RTM, probably in only the ones that have extra vacancies. If you know of someone who wishes to do that, they need to come into our town clerk's office and register as a write-in candidate. If somebody writes your name in and you are not registered, you will not be considered. You have to be a registered write-in candidate. You won't get any publicity except that which you do yourself. However, just want to make that available to you, and we accept write-in candidates for the RTM only until Monday, November 4th at noon, the day before the election. Thanks. If you have any questions, give our office a call. Oh, and Harry. Harry McLaughlin has stepped up to be the Rules Committee person from District 5, replacing Joanne Hennessy. Thank you, Harry. One meeting, October 9th?
Yes.
Okay.
October 9th. Thank you, Mac. The Rules Committee is going to bring before you from time to time different things that are going on in town that affect everybody in the town. And so we have tonight the Advisory Committee on Sustainability. Kathy Finnegan is going to talk to us about the status of that. Yeah, right. The microphone is yours.
Thank you. My name is Kathy Finnegan. Thank you for inviting me to speak on behalf of the Advisory Committee on Sustainability. For those of you who may not know, the committee was renamed from the Energy and Recycling Committee last year to broaden the scope of what the work is that the committee does under the chairmanship of Craig Flaherty, who could not be here tonight. I've been the project chair on this project, so I'm here to tell you what it is, what Sustainable CT is as a program, what the opportunity for Darien was in participating this year, what we did to submit application for certification, and then what we learned from the process so far, which is still ongoing. Certification announcements won't be made for another probably 6 weeks. Sustainable CT is a voluntary certification program that recognizes thriving and resilient municipalities and their efforts to become more sustainable. It really is a program to encourage coordinated local municipal efforts between entities. Those would be lawmakers, commissions, community groups, businesses, to work towards things that help the overall sustainability and well-being of a community. And I'll explain what that means, because the word sustainability is a much broader term than you might think in terms of, say, energy or recycling. 89 communities, roughly half of the state of Connecticut, have enrolled or have registered to participate, including Greenwich, Stamford, Norwalk, Westport, Fairfield, Wilton, Ridgefield, and Weston. And in 2018, 22 communities were certified at either a bronze or a silver level, including Greenwich, Stamford, Westport, and Fairfield. The organization Sustainable CT is independently funded, and to become certified, a community must choose from a broad range of voluntary actions across a variety of categories, implement those actions, and document them to earn points towards sustainability, towards certification. And the goal of the group is really, in their own documentation, to promote economic well-being and equity among all citizens through the creation of sustainable municipal plans. And as long as they consider the health and well-being of the current and future residents and respects the finite capacity of natural resources. The organization offers resources to assist in this process in implementing activities and filling out the application that include educational programs, webinars, experts that have been made available to our town, and through a wide range of grant opportunities, either funded by Sustainable CT or that you become notified of as you participate. So that's what it is in a nutshell. It took a long time for the committee to figure out what it is, and to narrow it down is kind of hard to do, but that's the broad brush. Darien, and working among our committee and with the Selectman's office, felt that it was a good idea to register and try to become certified so that we could highlight our strength as a forward-thinking community that could attract and retain businesses and new residents or homeowners that care about the kinds of actions that go into this process. Secondarily, what we've learned through our committee and started working with some of the town staff and outside organizations is that we develop a framework to talk about actions across, whether it's the selectmen or maybe with RTM in the future. We worked with other commissions. There's a lot of opportunity to work with the school system. We didn't even get there this year. And the program gave us some opportunities, which we have yet to take advantage of, but to apply for grant programs, including one which is called the Sustainable CT Community Match Fund, which provides up to $25,000 for actions that are steps towards certification. And there's even an organization called In Our Backyard, which is a nonprofit crowdfunding platform that will help match the grant funds through crowdfunding in your own community. So we haven't even started to look into some of those things. So we submitted an application in August. The notification will be in November, and recognition is at the Connecticut Conference on Municipalities in December this year. And we applied for bronze level certification, which meant we had to do things in 9 different areas of activity and get 200 points. We submitted 18 actions and over 250 points. And the categories, which I wanted to mention, really are things like efficient physical infrastructure and operations, strategic public services. There's a big emphasis on arts and culture, throughout your community. Healthy and diverse housing is an area where there are things you can do. Clean and diverse transportation systems, well-stewarded land and natural resources, and a broad category called inclusive community impacts that mean when you take on a project at the municipality, you're making sure that it's equally available to all members of your town. And I couldn't take you through all 18, but I just came up with 5 that it might give you the idea of these were the actions that the town of Darien is taking. We were amazed, I think several of the team members are here, at what's already happening without calling it sustainability. One is efficient physical infrastructure. Our installation of LED streetlights and solar on our town buildings can be documented and count towards your accreditation as a sustainable community. Strategic and inclusive public services, we are almost kind of we're ahead of the curve and at the top of, I would say, thanks to Carolyn Bain and other people that have been working with recycling on, we recycle materials that aren't required in the state of Connecticut, and we're kind of a model for other communities, and it was very well recognized by Sustainable CT, whether it's mattresses, batteries, electronics, and then the addition of the food scrap recycling program, which is becoming really important in many, many communities to get the food waste out of the garbage stream and to compost it. So it's very good for a community, it's good to reduce costs, and it's really good for the environment. The last 2, inclusive and equitable services, quite simply, we worked with Human Services and Public Works and found ways to provide access to the swap shop and the food scrap recycling to people that don't otherwise have access in the community through need-based reasons, to give them an opportunity to use the swap shop for what it's intended, which is to recycle and reuse materials and not keep them out of the waste stream. And we worked in collaboration with Senior Center and At Home in Darien to include better information about transportation to the farmers markets, because seniors need healthy food and may not always be able to get there on Wednesday mornings on their own. And that was at the same time that we were becoming certified as a community that provides coupons to individuals in need, seniors in need, through a state-funded program. So it was kind of a collaborative event. And the last thing that I want to mention, which is really where the sky's the limit, is the collaboration with organizations on the Pollinator Pathway, which is an innovative program which included the Gardner Center, the town, the library, the Pollinator Pathway organization, and I know I'm forgetting several as I say this, to educate about having native plants and how those are good for native bees and butterflies, and how by reducing pesticide use, which is again good for the environment, is also good for the insects and things that pollinate in our community. So that isn't falling into a category under Sustainable CT, but it's welcomed as a really good example of how a community can work together. The municipality has to be involved, and works in collaboration with other organizations. So that's kind of what we did. Our application is in. We're pretty sure that we've already made the cut for bronze, although we won't know that quite yet. And the learning, which is where we want to leave off with the RTM and members of the community, is that this is really the beginning, not the end of a process. It was a lot of work to actually do the paperwork this year without a lot of conversation about what it really means, so we're kind of coming up for breath now. I would say that all the actions we submitted have a positive impact on our community, the economic well-being of the community and the people who live here, and they respect finite and natural resources, whether it's adding solar or working with the composting, things of that nature. And the opportunity to improve communication came out as a glaring thing at our debrief, that there's so many things happening in town, whether it's with, one of the things that I didn't mention, we did a water conservation program with an intern, with the town, with the assistance of the Pollinator Pathway people, and when you find an Aquarian, when you find out what different people are doing and can bring it together, and this was held in August here over at the Board of Ed buildings. There was so much information and there was so much, it was fascinating that there's a lot to share and that isn't always shared between groups that work together, or information that could be funneled down to help us reduce water, because according to Aquarian, the risk of not having enough water at peak times in the year is real. So finally, the opportunity, we have an opportunity to lead, I think, in many of these areas. Through communication, through working on programs together, and then it really gets to where you're all are at, which is future planning of programs, policies, budgets that can incorporate ideas on sustainability, whether that's in a transportation budget where you're supporting electric vehicles, or moving towards identifying fleet replacement that could be in electronic vehicles instead of fossil fuel-based vehicles. It might be expanding the food waste program into the school system, where we all know a lot goes into the waste stream, and it breaks our hearts much of the time. Or it might be in preserving open space and protecting the coastal environment. So as time goes on and you hear of items in a budget or in a program and you hear it connected to sustainability, that's the reason why it makes everybody, it's a benefit for everybody and makes Darien a better place to live. That's pretty much the whole thing. If you're interested in knowing more, the website is sustainablect.org, and you can find out about the grants, what all the other communities are doing. Anyone that's been certified, their certification is forward-facing. You can read what other communities are doing, and you can always contact us if you have ideas that made sense for Darien.
Kathy, thank you. Next, we have consideration and action on the rescission of the $250,000 bond authorization for the DHS storage facility project. Speaking on behalf of the Education Committee, Clara Sartori, the chair.
Good evening. The RTM Education Committee met on Monday, September 16th, with 11 of 15 members present to discuss and vote on the rescission of the $250,000 bond authorization for the Darien High School storage facility, or shed, that was originally approved by the RTM on June 12th, 2017. Board of Ed Vice Chair David Deneen, who was present along with Selectman Kip Coons, to update the committee on the Oxridge Building Project, provided a brief explanation, noting reasons why the shed was not necessary at this time. The shed was originally planned for the area where the power lines were discovered a couple of years ago, and existing space has been cleaned out and space for storage has been identified without the need for taking up additional ground space with a new shed. The Education Committee voted 11 in favor unanimously for the rescission of the $250,000 bond authorization. Thank you.
Would you move the item?
Oh, I'm sorry. I would like to move the item. Is there a second? Second. Okay. Thank you. There you go.
Next, on behalf of the Finance and Budget Committee, Jack Davis, Chair.
Typically, if one of our boards decides not to pursue a capital item, we do not get involved, providing that it wasn't taxed and there were no funds allocated. In this particular case, we're involved because we approved the budget and the Board of Finance decided to bond it, and then at our June meeting, we authorized that bond. So this is a little bit of a cleanup of a footnote. No funds were ever spent on this. The bond wasn't issued, but we have $250,000 of authorized bonding that's not going to be bonded. So the reason why we're here tonight is to rescind that bonding authorization. The Board of Ed met on June 25th and said they don't want to do the project anymore. On September 17th, the Board of Finance rescinded this. And so tonight, when we rescind it, we reduce the amount of authorized bonds but not issued by $250,000, and that will appear in a footnote on our financial statements. So, we met on September 16th with 12 of 15 members present, and the F&B committee voted unanimously to rescind the bond authorization associated with the Darien storage shed and recommend the same to the full RTM. Thank you.
Thanks, Jack. Any other committees? Town officials? Members of the RTM? Electors of the town? Ready to vote? All those in favor, please rise. Noes, please. Abstentions? I see a few here. We get the abstentions? Okay. Good. Next item is consideration and action on the acceptance of private funds up to $75,000 for the 2020 bicentennial celebration. We have two committees who will talk about this, and then Al Miller will get up and talk. He's the chairman of the committee, talk about what's going on with it. Starting off from Park and Rec, Adele Coniff, chair.
Dale Coniff, District 3, RTM Park and Recreation Committee Chairman. I'd like to move 1920, consideration and action on acceptance of private funds up to $75,000 for the bicentennial celebration. Do I have a second? Second. With no objection, I'd like to waive the reading of the resolution. The town of Darien will be celebrating its bicentennial in 2020. A subcommittee of the Monuments and Ceremonies has formed as the 2020 Bicentennial Committee to plan and manage appropriate celebrations and memorials. These events will celebrate Darien's unique heritage, honor the town's forefathers, and educate the community about Darien's history. The committee is also charged with raising the necessary funds to support the activities. The committee is planning 4 large events, beginning with an opening day ceremony Friday, January 10th, in the evening at Town Hall Auditorium. The Parks and Recreation Department will be involved with the Weed Beach Festival's Bicentennial Bash Saturday, June 6th. There'll be an Anniversary Day ceremony Friday, June 12th, in the evening at Slauson Cemetery, and a Heritage Day celebration autumn 2020 at the Darien Historical Society and other locations. The goal of the committee will be to raise $25,000 to support these events. The RTM Parks and Recreation Committee met on September 16th with 11 of 14 members present, constituting a quorum. The committee voted unanimously to support the acceptance of private funds up to $75,000 for the 2020 bicentennial celebration. We hope the RTM will do the same and that everyone will support the 2020 Bicentennial Committee with their donations.
For the Finance and Budget Committee, Jack Davis, chair.
Thank you, Adele, for that thorough presentation. We're only going to deal with the financial aspects in the F&B report. Essentially, there are 2 parts to this resolution. The first part is the acceptance of private funds of up to $75,000, and That's the acceptance of gifts and donations totaling in excess of $10,000, which does require RTM approval. The second part is authorizing the town to spend that money because they don't have an authorization in their budget. So we're doing both. Based upon the Bicentennial Committee provided a draft of financial statements detailing their plans to both the RTM Park and Rec and Finance and Budget Committees, and we reviewed the finances. The $75,000 includes $5,000 of seed money, and I'm going to provide a little bit of up-to-date news. At today's Board of Selectmen meeting that occurred before ours, the Board of Selectmen approved additional $10,000 of funding tonight. Included in their funding of $75,000 is $6,700 to be allocated to bicentennial merchandise, which will be sold. The town is going to treat that as a contra account. It's intended to be sold for a profit. If they sell out, they can buy more, we can get more profit, and ultimately it will help fund some of the $75,000 that they're looking to raise. If $75,000 is not raised, it is the intention of the committee to reduce expenditures on events or other budgeted line items to stay within the amounts that's raised. As such, the sooner they raise the money, the easier it is for them to plan. Funds associated with this committee will be accounted for separately as gift. As I mentioned, the merchandise will be a contra. It's important sometimes to understand also what this resolution is not. There is the goal to have historical markers put throughout town. The estimated value or cost of that is about $35,000. That is currently in conversation and discussion. It is not included in the 75, and the 2020 bicentennial will be coming back to the RTM at some future date with that gift. The Town Finance Department reviewed several transactions and methodologies and determined that the town will only be accepting checks on this. Now, I was told to be low-key on this part, so I will be as low-key as I can possibly be. I anticipated some snickers. Those wishing to contribute, and we're not forcing any, but this is a good cause, but those wishing to contribute should make their checks out to the town of Darien, write in the memo 2020 bicentennial, and the checks can be dropped off with Linda in the First Selectman's office, or it can be mailed with the 2020 that's there. Now, I know there's many of us who pay by Venmo, credit card, debit card, and all these other things. So it is a challenge for all of us to go and find where we hid our checks. The RTM F&B Committee met on September 16th. Kate Bush, Town Administrator, was present at our meeting, and with 15 members present, we voted unanimously in favor of this resolution and recommend the same to the full RTM, and I hope everyone does consider making a contribution. As I said, as low-key as I can be.
Next, are there other committees? No? Then Al Miller, town official, step up and tell us all about this.
Thank you, Jack and Adele, for that wonderful introduction, and thank you for inviting me. It doesn't feel like the first day of autumn today. It was very warm, but my name is Al Miller, and I'm the chairman of the Darien 2020 Bicentennial Committee. Like Adele stated, we're an official committee. We're a subcommittee of monuments and ceremonies. There's 15 members, and we have about 10 volunteers, so there's about 25 of us planning these events for next year. Like Adele said, our mission is to honor, celebrate, and educate everyone about what happened on June 12th, 1820, when Thaddeus Bell, who was our founder, after numerous attempts, signed the proclamation to secede from the town of Stamford and found this town. He crossed out the name Belleville, which was originally the name of the town in honor of Thaddeus Bell, and wrote by hand Darien, and that's why we're here today in the town of Darien, 200 years later. So like Adele said, there's 4 ceremonies that we're funding with the $75,000, and that's all private funds. The bicentennial opening ceremony will take place here at Town Hall. We're inviting all our state and federal representatives to come. The ranking dignitary will give a speech. Of course, Jamie will give a speech. We will also have a keynote speaker that will be announced very shortly, and I'm very, very excited about him. He's a very, very well-known celebrity. We're very, very honored that he's going to be speaking here. He's a Darien resident. After that, there's going to be a ceremony at the Darien Historical Society as well. Then there's the Weed Beach Festival. We're going to be a big part of that. That's our birthday bash. We're going to have a lot of stuff for the kids. There may be a fife and drum presentation there. I think we're going to have a birthday cake decorating contest for the kids. There may be a birthday cake float that we'll have. We'll have some music there as well for the Weed Beach. That's going to be a lot of fun. But after that, a week after that is the anniversary ceremony. So that's on June 12th. That'll be more of a somber ceremony. That's the actual date that we were incorporated as a unique town. That's going to be at Slauson Cemetery on Hanson Road. We're restoring that whole gravesite as well as the gravestones of Thaddeus Bell and his wife, which was in very, very poor condition. Just a shout out for the DAR. They're helping us with that effort as well, and they're providing a plaque. We're asking the faith community to have a ringing of the bells to mark this event. This was done 50 years ago, similar type thing for the 150th anniversary of the town of Darien. And then the September-October timeframe, we're having a much more fun event, the Heritage Day celebration. That's going to be at the Darien Historical Society and also at the Mather Homestead. We're going to have a lot of reenactors. Hopefully they're going to reenact a special event that occurred almost 200 years ago. It's going to be very, very exciting. A lot of stuff for the kids to do, a lot of crafts and things for the kids, lots of food. We're really excited about that. We're also fundraising for communication. Hopefully a lot of you have seen our logo. It was done by 3 high school kids. It's out there. For those of you who have not seen it, you will be seeing a lot of it because we're going to do a lot of merchandise, as Adele said. And as Jack said, as part of our fundraising, there's going to be T-shirts for sale and hats, both in the schools and different areas of the town. And then the historical markers, which is not part of the $75,000. So well above 80% of the stuff that is needed to fund these events are coming through private donations. So that's why we're asking for everybody to be very, very generous. We're trying to raise these funds through corporate sponsorship, through individual donations, and for the selling of merchandise. And I've got to admit, there's been a lot of enthusiasm so far, different organizations and different individuals in the town. So we're very, very excited. It's going to be a fantastic year. Any questions? No. Okay, thank you very much.
Any other town officials? Members of the RTM? Electors of the town? Ready to vote? All those in favor, please rise. Item 19-9, The DHS shed bond passed 68-4, 2 abstaining. Noes? Abstentions? Okay. Next item is consideration and action on providing a defined contribution plan for a specific group of employees for the Finance and Budget Committee. Jack Davis.
I have written down here that I'm supposed to say I'm Jack Davis, District 3 Chairman of the RTM Finance and Budget Committee. I apologize, but put it for the last two also. I move RTM Resolution 19-21, consideration and action on providing a defined contribution plan for a specific group of employees. Do I have a second? Second. If there's no objections, I propose to waive the reading of the resolution. As part of the town employee union contract, there was a provision that stated that we were going to establish a defined contribution plan for a specific class or group of employees. Primarily, it was thought to be used for those who might be joining us on the civilian dispatch. Prior to that provision in the union contract, the town only had one type of pension, which was a defined contribution plan, where all employees participated. However, there were constraints. If somebody had retired, let's say, from the police department and was drawing a pension, they had a limitation on what they can earn, and they couldn't go back into the plan because they were already drawing from it. As such, the defined contribution plan allows that employee to be full-time and not interfere with their other pension that they're drawing down currently. The town spent some time looking at this, and the town administrators, and it was a team of people. After reviewing approximately 37 other municipalities in Connecticut with a defined contribution plan, the plan will have employees contribute 5%, and the town will match 5%. That matching, the 5 plus 5, was present in 12 of the plans out of the 37. And many of the other plans were higher in what the matching was. Two towns, one within our DURG, Ridgefield, does a 5 plus 5 match, and Greenwich, which has had a defined contribution plan probably for one of the longest of any of the towns in Connecticut, also does a 5 plus 5 match. The 5% that the town will be putting in is estimated to be lower than the total cost for what the town contributes to an employee that's on the defined benefit plan. We also have a change in vesting from some of those other towns. Our vesting is known as cliff vesting, where 100% of the town match funds and earnings on those match funds belong to the employee only after they have completed 5 full years of service. That's cliff. You get it all at the end. Other towns, similar to Greenwich and Ridgefield, amortize the vesting. So at the end of year 1, you have 20% of the town match. At the end of year 2, you get 40%. And I apologize explaining this to many of you in the audience because you actually know this based upon your own pensions. I want to remind everyone that the employee does own 100% of what they've contributed and the earnings on that contribution, regardless if they do not get to the 5 years of getting the town vesting. In addition, this is an employee self-directed plan, but the town administration also reviewed the fund management fees to ensure that they were reasonable to other plans that we have, and they are. The cost of maintaining this plan is $1,000 annually, regardless of how many employees we have in it. Again, it's a self-directed employee plan. The town chose ICMA-RC to manage the plan. This group is one of the providers of the Town 457 Deferred Compensation Plan. The police union and police officers are familiar with this provider and the funds that they have to offer. And overall, the town believes that the company has done a good job for the funds that they are managing as one of our providers, and that's why they were selected. There is one employee who started a week or so ago in our civilian dispatch who qualifies for this plan. And lastly, having this plan may allow other employees an option in future contract negotiations, but that will be determined based upon the negotiation that happens with the union. And when we get the contracts that are going through, we may or may not see that that's available. The RTM F&B committee met on Monday, September 16th. Kate Bush, our town administrator, was present and was very helpful throughout the meeting. The 12 of 15 members present voted unanimously in favor of this resolution and recommends the same to the full RTM. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jack. Other committees? Town officials? Members of the RTM? Electors of the town? Okay, ready to vote? All those in favor, please rise. Item 19-20 passed 71 in favor, no noes, and no abstentions. Please stay for the counting of the vote on 19-21. Item 19-21 passed unanimously. No noes, no abstentions. I'll accept a motion to adjourn. All those in favor, please rise.